Silver Screen 7, Hawk. This week, what is our Silver Screen 7?
We're going to go with a nice, simple top 7 Wes Craven films.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
It gives us a good chance to talk about them before we get to the film we're talking about today.
Yeah, this one definitely ties into our movie of the week, which is Deadly Blessing from 1981. Wes Craven directed that. We're doing top Wes Craven movies. Do you want to kick it off, Hawk, or do you want me to give you my number 7?
I'll just go with it. Number 7 for me, I'm going to go with The People Under the Stairs.
Okay, hold on. Number 7. You have The People Under... Number 7. That movie should be ranked so much higher. That I'm calling bullshit on giving that number 7. Come on, man. The People Under the Stairs is a all-time classic Wes Craven.
Well, you can refute it as I give you the top 6. You can tell me why People Under the Stairs is better than the films that I have ranked above it. Then,
okay. So, give me your thoughts on People Under the Stairs, since you want to take a big dump on it and drop it down to number 7.
A big dump. Wes Craven's one of the greatest.
He doesn't have that many movies. You're putting that movie to the bottom of the pack in his filmography. It's bullshit.
But he has about 10 films in his filmography that any director would love to have in theirs. I think he's one of the greatest underrated filmmakers of all time who did on our rating system. I don't want to say classic after classic, but great film after great film.
Yeah, fun movies for sure.
Fun, very watchable, very rewatchable.
Wes Craven's an icon. Let's be honest.
So when you say I take a umbrage to me saying I'm taking a dump on People Under the Stairs. I'm not. It's just number 7.
You're taking a dump on him. Don't try and backtrack on this.
No, it's like Peckinpah. He has so many good films. Like whatever number 7 is, you might feel like it's under too low, but it's because the films above it are better.
Okay, so this is why I love that you have that at number 7, and I just gave you shit for it because I'm about to make myself look like a hypocrite, because at number 7 for me, I have the Eddie Murphy vehicle, Vampire in Brooklyn. That movie is a hidden gem. It's one of those movies that I rented as a kid. I just out of the blue popped it in. Angela Bassett, Eddie Murphy's a vampire in New York. Come on. Wes Craven, Vampire in Brooklyn, fun movie from the 90s. Number 7.
I can't shit on that only because I have not seen that. That's one of the
What?
It's one of the 2 or 3 Wes Craven films I haven't seen, man.
No, you got to get on Vampire in Brooklyn, man. 1995. Just right in that sweet spot of 90s movies. It's got the 90s vibe. It's Wes Craven. I believe this is right after Scream. So it's this is the movie he followed up. No, this was before Scream.
I was going to say, man, after Scream, it's pretty Scream was it. That was Wes Craven tapping out.
No, this was the movie immediately before Scream. This was 95. Scream was 96. I fucked up on that. But yeah, you could tell, even though I like this movie, if this was where he was going with no Scream, it might have been a scary couple years for the guy. But yeah, number 7, Vampire in Brooklyn. What do you got at number 6?
6, I'm going to go with Swamp Thing. Adrienne Barbeau, baby.
Wow.
Loving it.
I love Adrienne Barbeau.
That was a big one from my childhood, too. Swamp Thing was always on cable after dark and shit. So I always remember that, and then I rewatched it as an adult, and I love Adrienne Barbeau. She's one of the foxiest things ever.
She is. Escape from New York. I mean, come on. The Fog.
Man, she's just dime piece. She married Carpenter, I believe. They were married for a while, weren't they?
Yeah, they were together. I can't hate on any movie with a monster suit like that. It was old school movie monster making. Swamp Thing. Good choice at number 6. I feel you. I don't have it on my list, but at number 6, I have The Hills Have Eyes at number 6. Kind of the mean version of Wes Craven. His first 2 movies I thought had a real mean streak to him, and The Hills Have Eyes definitely Definitely a classic. Kind of made his career, set him apart as a new voice in horror. Number 6, Hills Have Eyes.
I'll agree with you that, man, his first 2 films, they're really raw and violent. And what's hilarious is when you hear interviews of people talking about Wes Craven, everyone says the same thing. He's very quiet, mild-mannered, like philosophical, almost like an English
he's like
teacher.
A professor, yeah.
Super nice, just completely opposite of what you would think the mind of someone who makes these sort of films. So it's even more shocking when you see Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, because it's like, man, they're violent as fuck.
Last House on the Left that's a raw movie, man. Like, strap in for something like that. It's a raw, violent movie.
All right, so my number 5 here is Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He only directed 2 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. They're the 2 best in the series, and New Nightmare. I think it's fucking great. I mean,
I'm with you.
Creepy.
Super meta. Super meta.
Yeah.
It's like Wes Craven, Heather Langenkamp in the movie playing themselves. Bob Shea of New Line Cinema, the producer of Nightmare on Elm Street, playing himself. It's super meta. It's shit that's like, you don't see a lot of this done this well. I think it's a highly underrated movie, and I agree. I think it's the 3rd best movie of the series. I have to put Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors at number 3, but it's number 3 for me in the series.
And I would agree with you. And if Wes had directed part Dream Warriors 3, then that would probably be on the list. But I think he wrote it, though. I think he did come back and wrote the script.
Him and Frank Darabont.
Nice.
I think they each did a pass. My number 5 is the movie we're talking about tonight, Deadly Blessing. I think it's a sleeper. We'll get into that. I'm not going to say anything about Deadly Blessing, but number 5 is Deadly Blessing for me.
All right, so my number 4 is I'm going to go with Last House on the Left. His first film. Super raw. I love it. I got the Arrow Video Collector's Edition. Pretty fucking sweet. Because they love Wes Craven, man. They did Hills Have Eyes and
Last House
on the Left and Hills Have Eyes 2. All 3, and I might even be missing one. But, Last House on the Left. Nice, raw, hard fucking...
It's fucking hard, man.
Man.
Strap in.
Strap in, exactly.
Yeah, it's not... You're not watching that one for style. There's no style points in that movie. It's just the rawness of it is the style. Man, what a movie. Number 4, I have the one you talked about at your number 5. I have New Nightmare. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's a solid movie, man. I think a lot of people don't realize how good that movie is. It kind of I thought it was maybe a little ahead of its time with the meta aspect of it. But go back and revisit New Nightmare. One of the great top 3 Freddy Krueger movies. So, yeah.
My number 3, I'm going to go Hills Have Eyes. Again, I love this movie, and I've revisited.
You've given your list away. I already know your top 2.
Yeah, and so I've revisited a lot of Wes Craven recently, and I think Hills Have Eyes holds up really well. Hills Have Eyes 2, it's not terrible, except they use like the first 20 minutes of Hills Have Eyes 2, if I remember correctly, is just footage they just like give you the ending of
part one.
Yeah. Or she keeps having flashbacks or something. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, the first Hills Have Eyes is super. I mean, it came out before a lot of the films where people get stranded out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, dude,
like,
it's
so
like
it's one of the first kind of like the Spawn movies, like Wrong Turn and shit. Just a bunch of unsuspecting teenagers get stuck out in the middle of the desert, and a family of fucking cannibals or whatever's just.
If you love old school horror, or if you're someone who wants to kind of dive into like those classic horror films, Hills Have Eyes is a staple of that 1970s American independent horror films. Like, to me, like that's right there with like the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, that genre. There was a lot of fresh, raw shit going on when they were putting those movies out. So yeah, I had it at number 6. You have it at number 3. It's a solid movie, man. My number 3, this is going to be Scream, 1996. This kind of changed the genre. This was that genre film that shifted everything. All the movies that came after Scream were knockoffs of Scream. Even the good ones, like I Know What You Did Last Summer, just a knockoff of Scream. I mean, Scream kind of set the tone for late 90s, early 2000s horror films. I think I'm not big on the other movies in the anthology, in the Scream series, but that first Scream movie, man, I remember watching it. I think I was 12, 13 years old at the time. My mom dropped me off and let me watch it with a buddy, and it blew me away. I love Scream. Scream at number 3 for me.
Yeah, so number 2 is Scream for me. Same for everything you just mentioned. And it was just one of those movies that you're starting to watch movies as an adult. For me, I think it came out when I was freshman, sophomore, high school, something like that. I had the VHS, and it's one of those movies that I didn't see at first, but you had friends who seen it and be like, hey, have you seen Scream? No, it's like, oh man, you're not going to believe the ending.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, don't tell me. So the big thing was like, what's the ending of Scream? So then I had to go watch it, and I've seen a lot of horror films since Scream. I wasn't as well versed in the horror genre when Scream came out. So then you start to like see all the movies it was actually inspired off of, like multiple killers and shit like that. But this was the first time where you're like, oh, there's 2 killers.
Yeah.
Nuts. Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's super hip. There's like this 90s hipness going on. And we'll get into it more next week, because I actually think the film we're covering next week is the beginning of the redefining the 90s horror genre. But Scream definitely is a major player in it.
Okay, a teaser for next week's episode. Stick around to the end and you'll find out what we're doing next week. My number 2 is the movie you took a big fat dump on at number 7, and that is The People Under the Stairs. Wes Craven, I believe it's 91 that movie came out. You have Roach living in the walls. This movie is great because it's so fucking original. Who comes up with this story? Like, it's such an off-the-wall. You've got the dude in patent leather with the shotgun, the 2 weirdos from Twin Peaks who show up as the married couple. You've got the kid from South Central LA who gets locked in this house and has to escape. You have the weirdo living in the walls. You have the girl. I mean, this movie is out there. And it's not a slasher. It's not, oh, there's a killer tracking kids down and he's killing them one by one. It's not a supernatural movie. Movies like this are so rare. And I remember as a kid when I watched this, I instantly put myself in the position of the little kid trapped in the house. And I love this movie. It's so fun. It reminds me of Burbs gone horribly wrong. Like Burbs and The People Under the Stairs, I feel like those 2 houses, those neighborhoods are adjacent to each other. It just has the same vibe to me, but in a different way. The People Under the Stairs at number 2. I love that movie.
And I'm with you. I love the movie. You can't really dispute any of the movies I put above it. Really?
I could. But
the order, I guess, maybe. But anyway, so my number 1, and I think it's both of ours because clearly
it's a masterpiece.
A Nightmare on Elm Street. And so there's a few things, and I'm going to say this multiple times.
It's my number 1 as well. Nightmare on Elm Street.
There's high art in this world. And it's like, for me, I'm talking like, you can count it on my fingers for me. There's like Steinbeck's East of Eden, Beatles Abbey Road, and like Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm not saying Nightmare on Elm Street's the greatest movie ever made. I'm not even saying it's the greatest horror film ever made. I'm just saying the story and the way it was pulled off.
It's masterful.
Everything came together, and it's fucking perfect. And I remember watching it with a couple 50-year-old dudes in Los Angeles, and they hadn't seen it actually. And so we're watching it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's not really scary." And it's like, no movies are really scary because they're fucking movies, dude. Right. It's like you're looking at fucking like high art. My mind always goes to the scene of where Freddy's arms get really long.
Oh yeah,
he's like
walking down the alley.
God, I don't know. I just love the fucking movie,
dude. I'm with you. The thing that makes this movie a masterpiece, like high art, like you say, is this might be the greatest example of such a simple story being put pen to paper, and then it comes out and every collective screenwriter in the business says, why didn't I think of that? A killer who dies and then kills you in your dreams, and the big thing of the movie is you can't fall asleep. Everyone has to sleep, which means everyone has to eventually face their fears. It's a brilliant horror film idea. Talk about the ultimate elevator pitch, single sentence log line for a movie. You can't fall asleep, a guy will kill you. Count me in. It's just, I love this movie. It's the earliest memory I ever have. And I don't know if I've told this story. Not my earliest movie memory, not my earliest horror movie memory. This is the earliest memory I have in my life. I remember being so little that the armrest of the couch was above my head. I remember walking into a dark room. The couch armrest is above my head. I peek around the couch, and there's a living room, a dark living room full of my parents and their friends staring at a TV screen. And when I look at the screen, it's the scene in Nightmare on Elm Street of the girl in the body bag being drugged down the high school hallway. And I remember seeing that image, and then instantly someone recognizes that I've walked into the room, and they pick me up and take me out of the room. And that's the only memory I have. So I feel like that moment heavily affected my taste. Such an iconic, creepy scene in that movie when she's being drugged through the hallway in the school. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, man, we could go on and on about it. Love that movie.
I think the best thing about that, though, is that's you'd think that's a film that a writer director makes and starts his career, but that came most of the movies on the list. I think three of the movies on the list I gave are before Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, that movie almost saved his career. If you really that was that's his second half of his career.
And he only made, out of the whole Nightmare on Elm Street series, I think he said he only made something like a couple $100,000 on the original, and then he sold the character, so he didn't make a dime except for part 3 and New Nightmare. Completely sold the rights to Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street, man.
Dude, what a bonehead move, Wes. R.I.P. though. I love Wes. Yeah. I hate that he's gone from this world and we'll never see anything else, but strong filmography. The later half, let's not talk about the later half. Let's end it probably at Scream. But up until Scream, man, great filmography. But yeah, that's our Silver Screen 7 for the week. And another good one, man. Another good one.